Hey guys, Dwayne here. I wanted to talk to you today about dealing with it, helping your kids deal with things when they get hurt by the narcissistic ex. Now, it's different than when they get hurt doing something else, right? I mean, if they get hurt, someone's mean to them at school, or they fall and they skin their knee or something like that. That's I mean that's that's still something you have to deal with, but it's different than the emotional abuse that they deal with when they have a narcissistic parent. When they have a parent that really doesn't have any empathy towards them and is basically like a covert narcissist, so where everything is really subtle, because it really tears. Well, here's the thing: if you lived in it, you know what I'm talking about. But if you were dealing with it and you were slowly tore down, more than likely, depending on what role your kids fill in that, they're going to experience the same thing. And it's really tough because and you might initially feel like you don't have any ability to do anything about it. You're basically watching a train wreck happen in front of your face, and there's nothing you can do. Well, that's not entirely true. It feels like that in the beginning, and you feel powerless to do anything about it. And the really hard part is it takes a lot of time and perseverance and dedication on your side to make a positive impact. Now, the problem is, depending on your visitation schedule and how much time you have with your kids compared to your ex, and maybe it's 50-50, maybe it's less, but I think the big thing that you have to do is you have to establish the difference. Establish that you don't treat them that way. You don't undercut them. You don't, covertly belittle them. And it's really tough whenever it's covert, whenever it's subtle. Because, when something is overt and somebody's doing something mean to somebody or to your, if a parent is over the top damaging, that's bad. But I think it's easier for the child and for everyone else, anyone who's a victim of it, to say, whoa, wait a minute, that's wrong, that's not acceptable, whatever. I mean, there's still some time that you're probably going to be susceptible to it and you're going to endure it. But when it's more overt, it's easier to finally say, that's enough is enough. Now, I'll use my situation growing up, because this is something that came up recently, and it really made me think about this. If you are trapped in that situation as a child and you don't have an escape or a constructive escape, and you don't have access to any other adult that can counter or demonstrate the appropriate way to be a parent, you're at a loss. And that's kind of where I was at, where you're stuck in this situation and your brain has to adapt. You have to find a way to adapt, and it becomes normal. It becomes that becomes your reality, and it's no different than for your kids. Now, the thing is, depending on the time that you have with them, obviously if you have more time, then you have a bigger impact. The first thing you have to do is, basically, you got to maintain your credibility, right? In my situation, when one of my parents, who I had limited access to, would try to explain to me what was going on, there was so much pain and hurt and anger and frustration that, and that other person had been, parentally alienated, and, I had picked sides like kids have a tendency to do. So now if you've had that experience, then try to take a step back and think about, okay, so what's happened to you, and how, what you didn't like about it, and what you did like about it, and what you could do differently, okay? And so I think I covered that. So let me fast forward to, now you're involved in this situation. You have made some, you've been working on yourself. You've realized what's going on. You understand that you are out of a narcissistic, abusive relationship, and you're trying to, so you're working on, you're working on yourself. You're dealing with it. You hopefully have been working on what your role is in it. What your issues are that you need to work on to make you a better person, a better parent, have a better life. All those things. Even with that, though, it's really tough when your kids are going through stuff, and they're telling you stories, or they're telling you about a situation that's happened with them. And realistically, to get to the point where they feel open enough to talk about that is, that right there in and of itself, I think demonstrates that you have made significant progress in building that relationship with your kids. And you have to be really careful how you respond, right? I mean, because you don't want to do anything to damage that relationship, and you don't want to try to force sides. And I mean, and realistically, I've said this before, I mean, you're really not the person that your kids should be talking to about some of those things, because you're actively involved in it. So that's where a really good therapist who understands this stuff is really important, really important to your kids' recovery, to be able to understand what is right and what is wrong, and what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. Now, your role in that is to basically be supportive and be there for them, and not be judgmental, and and help kind of reinforce that. Now, if the kids have a good therapist that you can work with, and you can kind of team with, I mean, I guess that's helpful. But it's tough, right? And but here's my point. Here's the key point that you need to think about, okay? You need to be able to communicate that, there's like two realities. There's your reality at one parent's house, and the reality at the other parent's house. And it's going to take time to get to that point. So don't try to say that right out, overtly right off the bat. You're going to have to build it, and they're going to have to kind of like come along on their own. But what you need them to understand is, because what's going to happen is they're going to come back to you, and they're going to have this anxiety and this frustration and this stress and these weird feelings, and you'll have to help them see the difference. I had one example I can give you is one of my kids. They've all had a rough time, okay? And it's like, as soon as you get, if you have multiple kids and they're different ages, more than likely what's going to happen is as you make progress with one, then you're going to have a problem, with the next one is going to pop up, and you're going to have to focus your attention on that. The problem is, or the bad thing is this really doesn't stop. Okay, anyways, to basically, there's chaos at one place and not chaos at another. And the kids are going to, they're going to know it, and they're going to understand it, but it's going to mess with their mind and mess with their head too, because it's such a contrast. The way you treat them is going to be different than what they're expecting or what they're being programmed to think that you're supposed to do. I mean, see, that's also the tough part is when you're really frustrated in this, and you're stressed and you have your own anxiety, and then you see your kids going through stuff, and it's going to make you angry, and it's going to make you frustrated and all those things. If you respond negatively, you have to know that your kids have already been programmed that you respond negatively, right? So it's like they've been, okay, you know what, I'll use this. I use this example sometimes with some folks at work, because this stuff happens at work too, but it's along the same lines. Let's say you and I are, we're supervisors. We're bosses in an organization. And I'm the bad guy. I'm the narcissist that's trying to sabotage someone else. And I'll call you Bill. I go, hey, Bill, Jimmy is a great guy. Jimmy is, great employee, super dude. It's just, man, Jimmy can just not come in on time. And you go, oh, yeah, really? I go, yeah, if it was only that one thing, if we could just get that fixed. So what's happened is you've planted, I've planted a seed of, a negative thought. Okay, so just to tie this together, if one parent is saying about the other parent, oh, it's just so sad that, your dad gets so angry, or your mom gets so angry, or they do this or they do that, right? Okay, so now Jimmy comes in a couple days later, and Jimmy's running late. And you see it, and you look at your clock, and then you look at me. And I just go, yeah, too bad, right? So you're slowly undermining Jimmy. Jimmy doesn't even realize what's happening. Jimmy doesn't even know, maybe there's a valid reason. Maybe his boss approved him to be late. But, you're slowly being undermined. Well, that's the same thing with the parental thing, right? So you got to know that everything that you're doing, every negative thing that you can do has been amplified, or that has been mentioned. It's stuck in the kid's head. Well, how your dad does this. How your mom does this. And see, okay, the good part about that is if you can calm yourself down and you can not do those things. And man, in the midst of this, it is tough because you're mad and you're angry and you're frustrated. And if your kids say something, or if they're unhappy, you're going to be frustrated about it, and you're going to feel powerless about it, which means your stress and anxiety is going to be higher. If you have multiple kids, now this is a good one, not a good one, but this is another thing to keep in mind. If you have multiple kids and one of the other kids is doing the exact same thing your ex used to do to their sibling, it's going to drive you crazy. And you have to be careful because you can't respond negatively. You have to do a very slow, methodical process to help them. Okay? So, and the thing on that is just be there for your kids, be stable for them, be a safe place for them, show them the unconditional love that they deserve, reinforce to them that you're there for them. Even if you have I had a conversation with my youngest the other day, and this is not necessarily about this, but kind of, but, she was talking about something she wanted to do, and I didn't really approve of it. And I went to her later, and I'm like, look, hopefully you'll wait until you're done with college before you decide to do some of these things. However, if you do later decide to do something, I'm still going to love you. I'm still, I am still your dad. I'm still going to be there for you. If I've raised you and you make a decision like, make a decision that maybe I wouldn't necessarily want you to do, it's not going to mean I'm going to hate you. It's not going to mean that I'm not going to love you. It's not going to mean that, I'm going to disown you or kick you out or, whatever. And the crazy part is, more than likely from the other parent, they're not feeling the same thing. They're feeling that if they don't conform to what that other other parent's expectations are, there's a punishment associated to it. So, all right. Anyways, so this part's tough. I mean, this part, I'll try to wrap this up. This part's tough, especially whenever you're watching your kids go through it. Just know that you can have a positive influence on them. I think that I've been able to accomplish a lot of that. I'm continuing to do it. I mean, it is frustrating at times, and it feels like, it feels like a never-ending battle. But I mean, you are the lifeline for your kids. You're the one who can demonstrate how to have good relationships, how to treat people correctly, how things are supposed to be. And, take that role, take it seriously, and do everything you can to help them. And I'll tell you that going through this for quite a while now, and feeling so I've gone through phases where I felt like, oh my God, maybe when my kids are in their 40s, they will tell me that, give me some acknowledgement that they get it. And what I will tell you is by creating a stable and calm environment for them, and a safe environment for them, you can increase your opportunity for success considerably. And I think I've been able to do some of that. And so I want to make this video, and I want to just kind of put that out there, because when you're going through this, when you're in the beginning stages of it, in the first year or two, and I hate to say years, because it's not an overnight process. It's not something that's going to just fix itself. You are going to have to. It's going to be a long process. And I, like I said, I used to think that it wouldn't happen. And I'm telling you, it can, and it will. Just stick with it. I mean, people are people. Your kids are going to grow up to be their own person. They're going to make their own decisions. They're going to make, their own mistakes. They're going to do all that stuff. So that doesn't mean that, you're going to be able to program them, to be a certain way. But you can do everything you can to give them the tools and the resources to at least, hopefully not be susceptible to getting in the same type of relationship. I mean, you don't want that. You don't want them to find somebody that treats them like garbage and belittles them and does all these things and think that it's normal. And if they're in that environment, and one of the parents is doing it, and more than likely, their siblings, if they have them, are doing the same behavior, they are being programmed that is normal. So you're their lifeline to demonstrate that that's not the case, and it doesn't have to be the case. And if you're in an environment, I mean, it's tough whenever they're with another house, that's the way it is. But as long as you can be stable, as long as you can demonstrate to them that it doesn't have to be that way, then they have a fighting chance. Now, if that's not there, they don't have a chance. They will be, very susceptible to either be, to be the narcissist or to be the codependent that gets with them. So, anyways, so my point is, to try to wrap this up and not make this a hugely long video, is just know, and it's really hard, know that you can make a huge difference. I mean, I had people tell me that, when I was starting out, oh, well, just do this and it'll work its way out. And when you're living it doesn't make sense, and those people aren't telling you, well, I've been through it, so this is what's happened and whatever. It's like, well, on page 72 of the manual, it says that if you have butterflies and rainbows, and you skip along, everything will be great. Great. Can I have that manual? But what I'm trying to say is I'm somebody who's going through it, right? I've been going through this for a while, and I'm seeing success. It is real. You know, it's not just something in a book. You know, I mean, it's all, everyone's an individual, so you never know how it's really going to ultimately manifest itself, but it's possible. And just, you know, just take that, keep the faith that you can make a huge difference, and you will make a huge difference. You're going to make a huge difference for your own, for your kids, and for yourself. You will have a better life out of this because of all the stuff that you're doing. I mean, look at it. All the people that you've watched on you know, YouTube. You know, I mean, most people, at least that I've seen, that have worked through this and are trying to share their stories to help people are doing pretty good. You know, I mean, I know everyone has their good days. I mean, you know, everyone's not jumping on camera and you know, talking about their bad days, but you know, I take hope in that. Take hope in that. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. Hopefully you're having a good day. Hopefully this video helps. And if you're dealing with this stuff with kids, you know, hopefully you know, this is connecting with you and giving you some peace and hope. So on that, I'm going to wrap this up. So hopefully you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you on the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.